Welcome to PR Talk, sponsored by the PRSA of Oregon. This is your host, Amy Rosenberg, founder of Veracity and author of A Modern Guide to Public Relations. Help other people find our podcast by subscribing, rating, giving us a review, or sharing on social media. Thanks for tuning in. Hi, everybody. I have Roshanda Pratt, also known online as the Rosho Live, and she's the CEO of and founder of the Rep Network. Hi, Roshanda.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah. So just kind of tell us everything about what you do. I mean, I know your company focuses on video strategy and scripting and content. And then you have the Rosho Live as well, which is super fun. I've been following you on there. And so just kind of tell us what you do, and then we'll get into video and why it's so important.
Sure. So I am a visibility coach and producer. I'm a former television news producer of 20 years. And what I do is I work with really powerful and influential women to create and leverage their visibility with live video and local media, because your visibility is power.
Okay. And so do you only work with women?
Well, most of my demographic is women. There are a couple of brave dudes who can step into the space and say, yeah, I need visibility too. And that's the thing. Visibility is not just a woman thing, right? Everyone needs that. And so there are a couple of guys who step up to the plate and admit, yes, Roshanda, I do need to be seen and heard.
Mm-hmm. And so, I definitely want to hear how you help them with that. But then also quickly, did you say that visibility is power? Is that?
It is. It is power. There's something very powerful about showing up as your authentic self. There's something really powerful about that. And it really gives other people permission to do the same. One of the things that I found out is I worked 20 years as a television news producer, but I've always wanted to be on camera. But the funny thing about this is I never liked myself on camera. That's going to be problematic when you say you want to be a reporter or a TV anchor. I didn't like how I looked on camera. I didn't like my voice. And so even though I wanted to be in front of the camera, I was really acting like a hidden figure. And in this day and space and age where we really have the opportunity through social media to create our own media channel, people are still dealing with, I don't like my voice. I don't like how I sound, how I look. What do I say? It's still that awkward, uncomfortable feeling, even though they know I could really leverage this to really manage my own narrative. And so visibility is power, because once you understand the power of being seen and heard, it really translates into making impact, influence, and ultimately income.
So that's interesting. So you didn't like yourself on video. Is that why you got out of your original out of TV, and why don't you think you liked yourself? Do you think it's because you just needed a coach like you, or?
I think it's a little bit of that. I needed a coach, but I realized that visibility is power, but visibility also is an inside job. So before you can get to it being powerful, you have to do the inside work. And I really just lacked confidence. I just did not think anybody would want to hear me, anyone would want to see me. What would I say once I got on camera? I just really lacked confidence, and I didn't honor my voice. So one of the exercises that we do with our clients, especially helping them to gain camera confidence, we work with them in honoring their voice and honoring how they look. Because a lot of times what we focus on really is not what our clients and the people that we're called to serve focus on. I mean, they don't want perfection. They just want progress. They're already dealing with imperfections and perfections in their own life, but they want the real from you. They want to really know you. And so I had to go through this journey, do some inner work in honoring my voice, honoring how my face looks. I mean, unless I go and get surgery, this face is not going to change. So I had to really do some work in honoring who I am and be comfortable with, I am enough. And I'm enough for people who want to do life and business with me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. So, oh my gosh, so many questions here. But do you feel like it's different with working with women versus men in that kind of headspace of you are enough?
I do feel like it's different. I think one of the things that women come to the table with is they're willing to be vulnerable and transparent. Even though it's uncomfortable, they're willing in that space, especially when they have me as a coach. They're willing to be vulnerable to allow me to take them to the place of really opening up and feeling better about themselves and gaining more camera confidence. What I find that comes to the space with men is we haven't really created an environment where men can feel vulnerable, because being vulnerable can be uncomfortable, especially if you haven't done it the first time. And one of the things, my husband and I had a conversation when it comes to vulnerability, is this conversation around some of the greatest storytelling is ESPN. I mean, 30 for 30 is one of the greatest programs. You want to know how to really tell a story, how to be transparent and vulnerable. 30 for 30 is great. And so I sat down one day and I was watching it with my husband, and I'm crying, I'm laughing, I'm going through all the roller coaster emotions because it's great storytelling. And I turned to my husband and I said, you do understand that this is visibility. This is vulnerability. He's like, oh, looking at me like, yeah. I was like, no, seriously. I mean, it's just packaged different in a way that you guys can really gravitate towards it or be welcoming towards it. So there's a certain way you have to I think treat both of those folks in helping them go through their journey of starting the inner work so they can then show up on the outside.
So the men might have the vulnerability kind of issues, and then the women might have the confidence issues.
Correct.
And
Great way to sum it up.
Yeah, and it's so important though for us to be comfortable on video, because if we're not comfortable and we're trying to be somebody else, it's going to show up. And actually, that's just going to make you not confident, right?
Correct. I mean, nobody wants an Instagram imposter or a Facebook faker, because the thing that's such a danger about showing up as someone else, you may attract someone to that sound. They're like, oh, yeah, I like what you're saying, Amy. This is great. I love it. I love it. And then they say things. Then what happens? They realize you're not the person that you claim to be. Right? So you attracted them to what sounded good to them, but now you can't sustain that because it wasn't real. And that's the danger of trying to show up in someone else's voice, someone else's sound, someone else's space that's not authentic and real to you, is that you may attract an audience, but it may not be your ideal client because they were attracted to a sound that's not really authentic to you.
And so I was kind of interested when you were talking about perfection versus imperfection, and kind of just getting, and I love that, by the way, but getting into the nitty gritty details of just video in general. I think a lot of people, and maybe social media is changing this now, hopefully, but a lot of people might believe that they can't do video because it just has to be perfect. And it's not really about either storytelling, it's more about the mechanics of it. I don't know. Is that what you mean by imperfection?
It's some of that. I think one of the things that I always tell people, that it's always progress over perfection every single time. And what we have to understand is every time you hit that go live button, or every time you record a short form video or do any video of any sort, you are aiming to get better every single time. So it's like, if I take 30 days and I dedicate myself to become 10% better every single time that I show up, by the end of the month, I'm 300% better, right? So we have to understand that you have to start with what you have. I think people major so much on what they don't have. I don't have the lights. I don't have the pretty makeup. I mean, if you go back and look at some of my beginning videos when I first started doing video marketing, oh, it's terrible. I'll be the first person to tell you. You don't even have to tell me it's terrible. I'm going to tell you for you.
Okay. Well, I don't know about
bad.
that. But.
It was bad. It's like watching paint dry. I was robotic. I was stiff. I mean, the lighting was crappy. It was just bad. But guess what? I just kept doing it. And every day I was dedicating to getting better. And while I just had a white wall behind me, I had a message in my heart that I knew that people needed to hear. So when I say it's progress over perfection every time, it's embracing the fact that every time I hit this video, I'm going to go back and watch my own video. I'm going to critique it, not to be my worst critic or my biggest hater, but I'm going to critique and I say, you know what? I like that I did that. Keep that. I didn't like that I did that. I'm going to change that the next time I hit the button. So it's
Mm-hmm.
giving yourself a level of grace and understanding that I'm on this journey of progress, not a journey of perfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just believe that perfection creates procrastination. And
Yes,
then my thought is that you can never have anything perfect. So you'll just never get started. And
that is
so
so true.
So I started doing these videos kind of talking about my book. And I know you wrote a book, The
Yes.
CEO of Live Video, which I want to talk about live video versus regular recorded video. But anyway, I started this video series and I thought, okay, I need to be really organized and I need to sit down and like write out my talking points. And I started to do that. And I just thought, I mean, literally before I started recording, and I thought, I can't do it. Like, I will never get through this. And so I just
Hmm.
started recording. And I sound like a crazy lady, like totally ditzy, but I just am. So I just like, I don't care. And honestly, like, I don't give a, you know what? I mean, I
Yeah.
think we're like past that right now. Like, if
Right.
you think I'm a ditz, like, just don't work with me. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
And listen, and that's okay. I remember one time I got a critique because the person accused me of stalling before starting
Hmm.
my video to quote get more views. But
Hmm.
really, I was just having a good time. There were people who were coming into the live video in the comments, and I was laughing and cutting up with them and just kind of giving an overview on what the topic was. I wasn't trying to stall. And in that
Hmm.
moment, I was like, well, maybe I should just try to explain. And I said, you know what? This is not my target audience. This is not a person who supports me. They're a first time viewer. They probably will never watch me again. It's okay to let that go because I realize that I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I am life saving water to the person who is thirsty. And I rest in that.
Well, yeah, and the last thing I'd kind of say on that is that I heard somewhere, maybe on a different podcast, that once you start to get criticism, then you know maybe you've made it in a way. Like
Yes, I've
you
arrived.
well, and or that you're making a difference because you
Mhm.
can't like not everyone's going to believe what you're saying or believe in you or whatever. So it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to hide. So I think that's what you're doing with your clients. And so what kind of before I go into I'm more interested in these kind of bigger questions rather than more of the mechanics with live versus kind of what would you call it recorded video. So
Mhm.
quickly, is there a difference now because you could just record something and then make it look live.
True. I mean, that's so true. I think one of the things that I love live video because I love the fact that we get to interact with people in real time and they get to see you in real time and it's not edited and all those things. But there really is something powerful about video, period. And as you said, I mean, with so many apps, third party apps that give you the capabilities of recording something and uploading it to look like it's live, it really it mirrors for me what we used to do in the TV industry for so many years, like record a video and we'd call it a look live, have the reporter go out in the field and record it to make it look like it was live, all of those things. So this is why I tell people that the smartphone is the new remote control and that these channels we have, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, are just our own media warehouses or newsrooms rather for
Mm-hmm.
us to put out information and content. So live video, it's real, it's in real time. You don't can't really edit it and finesse it, whereas with recorded video or static video you can do those things too. Just know the purpose on why you're doing either or, and pay attention to what may resonate with your audience the most.
Yeah. So with live, you're losing a little bit, or not a little bit, you're losing that interaction, the live interaction with your audience. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then it takes vulnerability to do live a little bit on two levels. Number one, because it's live, you can't fix it. But I'm past that. Like, I don't even care. So hopefully other people are past that. But my
Mhm.
vulnerability with that would be that no one would show up.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
so I just record it.
Yes, yes. The thing about that too is, that's a lot of people's concern. And there was my concern too. I'm like, I don't want to have zeros, a zero in
Mm-hmm.
the corner, or if it's just one person. And so this is what I started doing at one point in time. Oh, you're taking me down memory lane here. I remember at one point in time that used to be such a crippling factor, that number, that I would put a post-it note over it. And I would tell myself,
Mm-hmm.
talk to this camera like you're talking to your friend Ronnie. My friend
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie and I have been friends since college, 20 plus years. She is one of my favorite humans in the world. She knows everything about me, right? You're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk like you're talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started doing that and serving the one like it was 100, when you get to 100 people watching, you're like, oh, I've already been doing this, right? And I'm just going to continue serving like I'm talking to my girlfriend. And actually, this trick that I'm sharing with you all today is what a lot of journalists use when they're first starting in the industry. It can be very intimidating sitting at that anchor desk or being live at a scene and having a crowd around you, or knowing that thousands of eyeballs across your city or country, right? Millions are watching you
Mm-hmm.
live. So the trick is to pretend that you're talking to your grandma or your
Mm-hmm.
best friend, and not pretend, or not be concerned rather, by the numbers or the people that are watching. And that was really helpful for me. And once I started serving zero like it wasn't zero, it was a
Mm-hmm.
total game changer for me.
I love that. Yeah. So, kind of moving on to content or written content versus audio and video. Quickly, I did take a writing class once where somebody told me, because as writers, we get really stopped up in
Hmm.
editing, which is perfection. And so you got to just get the words on the page. So you can't look at your words. You just got to get them down. Then you can edit. So this person would either have their text super small so they couldn't read it, or
Mm.
cover it up, yeah, with a paper. But kind of moving on, so why is video so important? And I'm kind of laughing because I know it's important. Like, and I kind of wish it kind of wasn't, because
Mm.
I mean, I am a writer, first of all, and then and so, like, what about social posts, with text? Is that
Yeah.
okay? And then the secondary question to that is, with my audio only podcast, I mean, I was just getting ready for this. There's no reason I couldn't do video, but as I was kind of getting ready to talk to you, I kind of was like, oh, I'm so glad it's not video. It just takes so much off the plate, like
Right,
pressure.
right.
So anyway, and that's a cop out possibly, but it's just like, I only have so much time. I don't want to wear makeup today. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
video.
I think this is such a good question, and I think you have to find what works for you. When I first started doing video and helping other people step into video, I was like, oh, it's got to be video. But there's so many different ways that you can do video nowadays. I mean, and not be seen, but it's still a
Mm-hmm.
video. So you could, record your screen. You can do a video interview with someone else. You can present a PowerPoint presentation. There's so many different ways, but I'm also not of the school of thought of that it's only got to be video. I
Mm-hmm.
think a great solid visibility plan includes several different things. So it's live video, and it's also using, what they call new media, but it's also using traditional media like your local news and magazines. It's using things like podcasts, right? Because podcasts, no one's seen me, but they heard me. But guess what happens? They go over to my Instagram, and I have IG and Reels over there. So they're able to see me. You see how it works? It's
Mm-hmm.
like being in a clubhouse room, which is totally audio driven. And I have a interview with someone. They're going to come over to my Instagram to see me. So I think it's using all of these things that we have at our fingertips, pieces of it, for your visibility, and not just saying, oh, it's just this one thing. It can be a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of everything, and don't box yourself in. I don't like
Oh,
boxing
okay.
myself in, right? I think it's like, I love this. This is really great. And then I'm going to merge some of those pieces together.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to hear. Because I do love writing. Okay, so let's see. So just tips, I mean, just a normal question would be
Hmm.
tips for good storytelling on video
Yeah.
and maybe like what to do and what not to do.
One of the things that makes for great video is you deciding before you ever hit that go live button or record button, right? Is deciding from the beginning what is the purpose of this video, right? Why are we doing this? What's
Hmm.
our call to action? What do we hope to gain from this? What is the point in your visibility and in your showing up? So I think that's
Hmm.
very much from the beginning. And then the second thing, again, before you hit the go live button, before you hit record, after you determine your why, I think the next thing is your who. And when I say who, I'm not talking about your audience, I'm talking about you. Who are you going to show up as? That's
Hmm.
so key because whatever you start, whatever you continue to portray yourself as, and people start to gravitate towards that, that's what they're going to believe that you are. So it's
Hmm.
really understanding your why and your who. Then you can get into some of the mechanics, and
Hmm.
it's having a really compelling headline that will make people stop their scroll and watch you, right? I love talking in bullet points, and when I say bullet points, I'm meaning 4 ways. I just did a live show, 4 habits of content creation, so people know if I'm watching this video, I'm going to walk away with four tangibles. So I
Hmm.
love using that thing and making it very simple and easy for people to understand. And that's the other thing, keeping it simple. We learned that in journalism school, KISS method, keep it simple, silly. I'll call it that, keep it simple, silly.
Not
And
stupid.
not stupid, right?
Rude. Yep.
So it's keep it simple. And
Hmm.
if your kids can understand it, then I can understand it because at the end of the day, we want marketing, we want more eyeballs, we want people to engage with us more. But if they don't understand it, confused people do nothing.
Hmm.
So minimize the confusion. I was working with a client one time that just really struggled with this. And high performer, high achiever. I just speak to people on an 8th grade level. I was like, you have to make this simple because if you're already
Hmm.
the expert and the authority and they're coming to you as the resource, you've got to make this simple and easy for people to understand. So that way they do take action and they do follow you.
Hmm. Yeah, that's hard too. That's where I thought I would organize myself because
Mm.
I'm all over the place and I do want people to understand this.
Yeah.
And so I get a little confused. So I think they get confused.
Right, right.
So I'm definitely learning. I'm literally taking notes. Like I'm learning and it's like, oh, I'm interviewing right now. I could go back and listen to this later. This is fabulous.
I love
Um,
it.
so, kind of a last personal question. I know
Mhm.
because I've been following you for a long time. I know that your faith is very important to you.
Yes.
And I just want to talk about how you intertwine maybe some of those principles, either not just into your job, but possibly how you serve your audience and your clients.
Oh, that's such a great question. And thank you so much for asking that question. I love when people ask me this question because it's honestly, I could talk about visibility all day, live video, but this is one of my favorite questions. And here's why I take my visibility as a personal responsibility. Like, this is a part of an extension of my faith, me showing up, because I believe how will people know who my savior is, the person who I worship and serve, if I don't show up? So I take that very seriously that every day I show up in the space, my job, I take it pretty seriously, is to make people better than how I found them. So whether
Hmm.
that's a joke about my kids, whether it's a TikTok about me making fun of working in television news and now on the media ministry team at my church, whether it's giving people visibility tips or talking to them about being passionate about showing up and the importance of them being enough. All of that's the extension of my faith and what I believe in. Because I remember a time when I was just like many people that I work with or the people who watch me online, when I was doubtful that, man, does anybody want to listen to me? Or why would they
Mm-hmm.
want to listen to me? And the question that I learned is, why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have something
Yeah,
to say,
I have
and
something to say.
and you have life experience too. That is very
For sure.
interesting. So,
And people want that. And they want a little sunshine in their world. And so if I don't show up, then that person has less sunshine in their world. I take it
mm-hmm.
that seriously. That there are people who are like, oh, if Ro doesn't show up today, then I mean, goodness, we don't have the solution. And that's not arrogance. That's just me knowing what my assignment here is on this earth. I heard it said one time, and I hope I get this quote right, that our debt to society is payable through service and how we show
Mm-hmm.
up. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is how I serve. This is by showing up.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Yeah, it's a good way to think about your work through service mode versus what can I gain
And
mode.
I think when you embrace it like that, you don't struggle with consistency. Like consistency is not a problem with me, with my visibility. It's not a problem with me showing up online and doing all the things that pertain to marketing my business, because I look at my consistency through the lens of I no longer have the right to remain silent.
Mm-hmm.
Silence is not golden. I have to show up because there are people who are counting on me to do so.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're doing this is really important. We're talking about empowering women, and you're also talking about bringing vulnerability to men. So it's a little bit
Yes.
more than just video. And
Yeah,
you're bringing those mind shifts, but you're using video as kind of a conduit to
for
give them
sure.
their own
For sure.
power.
Oh, I
So,
love it. For sure. So yeah, it's
yeah.
really powerful. And I really do think of that this as, okay, this is my life's work. This is what I was called to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're good at it, might as well keep going. I
That's
mean,
right.
that's one of the things that's like sometimes I'm like, oh, what am I doing? With this PR stuff, and it's like, well, I guess I'm kind of good at it, so I guess
Right.
I'll write about it mostly.
Yes. If it's not
Uh,
broke, don't try to fix it.
yeah. So, okay. So, where can people find you online?
Sure. So I love to hang out on all social media platforms. My favorite right now, I'm really digging, is Instagram and TikTok, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's at the Rosho Live, TheRoShoLive. I love to spell that. And then also anything that deals with brand visibility, imposter syndrome, check out Visibility is Power TV on YouTube.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for this is going to be really cheesy, but thank you for bringing us some sunshine today.
I love it. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the PR Talk podcast. Find Amy's book, A Modern Guide to Public Relations, plus more PR Talk episodes at prtalk.co. And remember to subscribe, rate, and review.